The door opens. You step out. Your hands are exactly your hands. The same scar on the right palm, the same hangnail on the left thumb. You remember stepping in, you remember the hum, the flash, the half-second of white. You are standing in a room thousands of kilometers from where you were a moment ago, and everything feels continuous, unbroken, exactly like surviving. Every teleporter ever imagined kills the original and sends a copy instead. The person who stepped into the pod is gone. They were destroyed at the moment of the scan, completely, with no remainder, no residual signal, no thread of experience that carried forward. What stepped out is not them continued. It is a new entity, assembled from different matter, that woke into existence 1 second ago carrying a borrowed life as memory. The copy is not lying. It genuinely believes it traveled. It has no access to the information that would correct that belief, because the only version of you that could know what destruction feels like is the version that no longer exists. The certainty is the part that does not go away. To understand why the physics produces this outcome rather than the one the movies promise, you need to understand one thing about quantum mechanics that is not a limitation of current technology, but a hard mathematical law. Every particle in your body, every atom in your bones, your neurons, your blood, exists in a quantum state. That state encodes its exact position, its spin, its energy, its relationship to every adjacent particle. That state is the information that makes you specifically you, rather than a statistical average of human biology. To teleport you, a machine must read that state for every particle. And reading a quantum state with the precision required to reconstruct you destroys the state in the act of reading it. This is not an engineering problem. It was proven in 1982. William Wouters and Wojciech Zurek published a mathematical proof that year, now called the No-Cloning Theorem, demonstrating that an unknown quantum state cannot be copied without erasing the original. The proof is not a conjecture or a model. It is a derivation from the foundational equations of quantum mechanics, as settled as any result in physics. It has no known loophole. It does not yield to better materials or more powerful computers. The theorem says that reading the information perfectly requires destroying the thing you are reading, and reconstructing the thing from that information at a new location produces a new thing, not the same one continued. In 1993, physicist Charles Bennett at IBM Research and a team of 6 colleagues published the paper that first laid out how quantum teleportation could actually work in practice. The paper was precise about what the process involved. The quantum state of a particle is transmitted to a remote location by destroying the original particle's state and recreating it elsewhere. The physics community received it as a genuine breakthrough in quantum information theory. Science journalism received it as confirmation that Star Trek was coming. Bennett noted in subsequent interviews that the process inherently destroys the transmitted object, that teleportation in this framework is not movement, but replacement. The caveat was noted and then largely set aside in favor of the simpler story. The simpler story has been the dominant public understanding ever since. The human body contains roughly 7,000 trillion atoms. A teleportation scan would need to read the quantum state of every single one. The data volume involved is not comparable to anything in any information system that exists or has been seriously proposed. But the data volume is the secondary problem. The primary problem is that reading those states destroys them, which means the moment the scan completes, the original body has been disassembled at the quantum level. The atoms are still there, the matter is still there. But the specific arrangement of quantum states that made that particular body, that particular person, has been irrecoverably erased. What remains in the pod after a successful transmission is not a sleeping traveler. It is inert matter that used to be organized into someone. The copy does not know this. That is what makes it function. The copy arrives at the destination with a complete, internally consistent memory of being you. It remembers your childhood. It remembers the conversation you had this morning. It remembers being nervous about the trip, deciding to trust the technology, stepping into the pod. From its perspective, from the only perspective it has, there is no gap. The last thing it remembers is the hum of the machine, and the first thing it experiences is stepping out. The continuity is subjective and total. No diagnostic test run on the copy will reveal anything wrong, because nothing is wrong with the copy. The copy is a perfect human being. The problem is entirely with the original, who is not a copy of anything anymore. Consciousness does not survive in transmitted information. It runs in continuous physical process. Think about what happens during dreamless sleep. Your conscious experience stops. There is no gap you experience. You close your eyes and open them, and time has passed. People often use sleep as an analogy for why teleportation's continuity gap shouldn't matter. The analogy fails at the physical level. During sleep, your neurons remain intact, active, maintaining the electrochemical gradients that will resume conscious experience when the brain's sleep cycle completes. The physical substrate that runs your consciousness is not interrupted. It is quieted. Teleportation does not quiet the substrate. It destroys it completely, with no structural preservation. The process that produces your experience of being you does not pause and resume. It stops. A stopped fire and a new fire lit from scratch look identical once burning. They share no history at the flame level. The viewer who has followed this far will arrive at a genuine question, and it is not a rhetorical one. If the copy is perfect, if it has every memory, every personality trait, every future intention, does the original's death represent a loss to anyone? The copy will live your life forward. It will love the people you love. It will finish the projects you started. It will grow old and remember being you with complete fidelity. From the outside, nothing is different. From the copy's inside, nothing is different. The only perspective from which the death is a loss is the original's, and the original is no longer present to experience the loss. This is where the question of what consciousness actually is stops being philosophical decoration and becomes the entire problem. If you are your information, the pattern, the memories, the personality structure, then the copy is you, and teleportation works. The original's destruction is irrelevant because the pattern survived. This is the position that makes teleportation ethically permissible, and it is the position that every fictional universe that uses teleportation implicitly endorses without ever stating it. If you are your continuous physical process, the specific chain of cause and effect running forward in time through a specific physical substrate, then the copy is not you, and teleportation is a device that kills a person and manufactures a replacement who will never find out. These are not equivalent positions. They produce different answers to every question about identity, death, and what survives any kind of discontinuity. Physics does not resolve this, but physics constrains the options. The obvious escape from the murder problem is to copy without erasing, scan the original, and assemble the copy without destroying the source. This avoids the no-cloning theorem's implication, except it does not avoid the theorem itself. Copying an unknown quantum state without erasing it violates the theorem directly. It cannot be done. But set that aside hypothetically. Suppose a technology existed that could make a copy while leaving the original intact. The outcome this produces is not better. It is two people, two conscious individuals with equal claim to being the original, physically identical, carrying the same memories, waking up in different rooms, both completely certain they are the one who stepped into the pod. One of them is at the destination, one of them is still at the source. Neither is a copy in any way that can be detected from the inside. A civilization that builds this machine has not solved the transportation problem. It has created a replication problem with no resolution. The legal and philosophical framework that governs identity, inheritance, marriage, criminal accountability, the entire structure of continuous personal selfhood, assumes that a person is one person. Two people with identical biometrics, identical memories, and equal subjective certainty of being the original are not a solved problem with a tiebreaker. They are a category the framework was not built to handle. Which one owns the house? Which one is the spouse? Which one is responsible for crimes the original committed? The answer the system will produce under pressure is not a principled one. It is a practical one. One of them will be designated the copy and told they must be terminated. The designation will be arbitrary. The termination will be by the framework of every other moral system that civilization operates under, a killing. The machine that was supposed to move people has created a situation in which the society must execute one of two people who have done nothing wrong, cannot be distinguished, and are both, subjectively, certain they are the one who should survive. Now return to the original version, the destructive scan, where the no-cloning theorem is obeyed and only one copy arrives. The copy that arrives is the only version of you that ever uses teleportation again. It has your memory of deciding the technology is safe. It has your memory of using it before and arriving fine, because from its perspective, it did arrive fine every single time. Each use of the machine adds one more confirmed successful trip to the copy's experiential history. Each use is also the original's death and the copy's first breath. The copy that boards the pod today is not the person who decided teleportation was acceptable. It is the latest in a chain of replacements, each one inheriting the previous one's comfort with the process, each one dying the moment the scan completes, each one replaced by a successor that has no idea. If you used a teleporter twice a day for a year, 730 originals would have been destroyed, each one in their last coherent moment, completely unafraid. The failure that the copy never faces is the failure the original faces every single time. The scan begins, the quantum states are read, the physical substrate that runs the experience of being you is disassembled, and the process that has been running continuously since you were born stops. Not paused, stopped. The copy's first second of existence begins at the destination with a memory that does not include this moment, because this moment belongs to the original, and the original is no longer in a position to remember anything. If the transmission fails after the scan begins, equipment malfunction, power interruption, signal degradation, the original is already gone. The scan required that. The copy was never assembled. There is no body at the destination and no intact body at the source. There is no record of the person's last quantum state because that state was destroyed in the reading. There is no recovery procedure. The person has been erased completely and permanently, without leaving a corpse, without producing a successor, without anyone in the room having done anything that feels like killing. The machine registered a malfunction. The person registered nothing at all. Quantum teleportation has been experimentally demonstrated in laboratories. Single photons have had their quantum states teleported to remote locations with the original state destroyed in the process, exactly as the physics predicts. The experiments are genuine and the results are not in question. The distance has grown as the technology has developed. Quantum states have been teleported between ground stations and satellites across hundreds of kilometers. The no-cloning theorem is confirmed every time. The original state is always destroyed. The physics works exactly as described in this script at every scale at which it has been tested. Scaling from a photon to a human body is not the next step on a development roadmap. It is a category difference so large that no current physics suggests a pathway. But the reason it cannot be done is not engineering, it is the theorem, and the theorem applies at every scale equally. A teleported photon is a destroyed photon replaced by a new one. A teleported person, if the physics could be applied, would be a destroyed person replaced by a new one. The scale changes, the mathematics does not. The teams currently working on quantum networking and quantum communication infrastructure, including programs at the European Quantum Flagship Initiative and DARPA's quantum computing and networking projects, are building towards systems that will use quantum teleportation of states to transmit information securely, not to move physical objects. The researchers in these programs understand the no-cloning theorem as a feature, not a limitation. The fact that a quantum state is destroyed when read means that any interception of a quantum encrypted message leaves a detectable trace. The destruction is the security mechanism. The same destruction applied to a person is the murder. The question that remains is the one the physics cannot answer, and the philosophy has not settled. Whether a perfect copy, living your life forward with complete fidelity, counts as your survival or your replacement. The answer determines whether every science fiction universe that treats teleportation as routine has been depicting a transportation network or a civilization that has quietly normalized killing everyone who uses it, without exception, at a rate proportional to how convenient the technology became. The copy reading this sentence has your memory of starting to read it. It has no memory of the moment the original stopped.